Hi, I'm Rhodes. I'm a writer. I work in visual media mostly, so I write for comics, I write for graphic novels, and I write for the screen. I've also written a book of short stories, which was my first published work. For some of my stories, I've gone, if possible, gone to the place where the character is their setting. So if I'm writing a historical piece, go to a historical house and sit and write there. Or walk around a museum while you're writing and immerse yourself in that aspect of the museum that pertains to the history of the time you're talking about. So sit in the Egyptian wing and write if you are writing an Egyptian piece. Not essential, but it's sometimes if you're stuck in the same room all day writing, typing words in an office, and you're feeling bogged down with it and not particularly creative, getting out into a different environment can really help. So with that in mind, let's create some stories. So if you've watched the Discovery video, you might already have a character in mind. If not, I encourage you to go back and watch it and try some of the exercises to build a character. And we're going to take that character now on a journey. And this journey will be the story that we come out with. So at its most basic level, any story is a series of problems the character must overcome and solutions as to how they overcome it in an ever increasingly dramatic fashion. For example, characters on an aeroplane. Nice, cool, chilling. Then the plane starts to wobble. Uh-oh, what's going on? It's okay, it's just turbulence. Phew! Oh no, the pilot was wrong. It's actually the engine's falling off. What? The plane's crashing. But it's okay, you've got a parachute. Phew! But the parachute, when you go to use it, is broken and you're falling to your death. Ah! And then it's okay, you're falling, but there is a big bale of hay that's going to catch you and you're going to be fine. Phew! That's alright. Oh no, the bale of hay is on fire. Ah! And then you're going to land into the flames. It's okay, at the last minute an eagle comes along and scoops you up. Eagles come out of nowhere and save the day. Phew, you're riding the back of the eagle. Oh no, the eagle has been attacked by a pterodactyl. Ah! So, you see, we just go on the story, something happens, phew, something happens, something happens. At its very basic level, that is what's going on in most stories. So, when we're looking to send the character on this journey, we've already established who our character is and what they want to get. We're going to put some problems in their way now. And they might not know they want this thing yet, but there might be something that's missing in their life, or there might be something that they know they want. But either way, we start with the equilibrium of the situation. This is the establishing where we are. So any story, the structure of the story looks basically like this. Where we have time going across that way, drama going across that way. From the start of the story, things are fairly low drama. We're just establishing the situation, introducing the character, let the audience meet the character, maybe a few little scenes depending on the length of your story. You might just want a few scenes in their world, you might want to spend some more time in their world. But at some point, quite early on in the story, we need to shake things up a bit. So something needs to happen here, approximately. And this is called the inciting incident. It incites the drama, it starts things off. Inciting incident. This is commonly how I think of most stories. I might then, once I've mapped it out in this way, break it up a little bit, and once you can see the story laid out, you can then do things with it like break the narrative, and maybe you start at the end and then you fill in the gaps, so you have a big moment of drama and then you build back from it, or you can do a lot once you've laid it out in a linear format. So my approach, I tend to know my character and kick them off on the journey in a linear way before I do anything else about breaking that up. Now the inciting incident is what kicks us up this hill of drama. And then once we're going up here, we then have the problem solution dynamic that I referred to earlier. So while we're going up here, all this stuff's happening. When we get to about here, I think of this as like the third act kicker. This is where if you were doing a twist story, some big revelation would happen about here, or the story might shift in pace and suddenly things get more intense around here because we've been going up and down this drama for a while. But at this point, something major happens that gets us over that hill to the climax of the story, which is here. So other people may call this something else. I call it the third act kicker. It kicks us up that final hill. This big thing happens, something changes. The story's going one way, then suddenly it's not what you thought, it's going a different way. And that gets us to the climax. This is where everything gets brought together that's been happening to the character so far, that they've been striving for, that all the plotting that's gone on and everything comes to a head, and that's your peak of your drama there. And after that, we then want to wrap it up neatly with a resolution. So the story gets resolved by the end. Now at these points, the character will have undergone some sort of change from the beginning, where we had the establishing, to the resolution at the end. They've been on this huge journey, and they're no longer the same character that they were. That might be that their world has changed and they must live in it differently now, or it might be that they've changed. They have a new perspective on life, they have met new people, or it could be a very physical change. Maybe they've grown, they've aged, something like this. Something has changed from when we first met the character to when we get to the resolution at the end. So what I think would be a good thing for you to do now to get you started on your story, you know your character, you've spent a lot of time with your character, you've thought about your character and fleshed them out so they've got a bit of a biography. Think about what might be the inciting incident. What's going to happen to them that really shakes up their world, that changes things and means that they have to act in a way that is outside of their ordinary existence. So take a few moments to think about what this inciting incident might be. So if you come up with an inciting incident, the thing that kicks us up the hill and starts the story, let's take a look at this portion of the story here. So in here is a really good place to explore those secondary characters and how they interact with your main character, but also to add obstacles. So you could think of a list of obstacles that the character could encounter on their journey now that things have started. If the thing that, for example, if the thing that was the inciting incident, there was an earthquake, the character was happily going about their life, there was an earthquake, they got cut off from their family and are stuck in a crevasse. Obstacles might be, how do you climb out of the crevasse when you get to the top? What do you find? How are you going to find your family? If you can't find them, what else is going to happen? And then it's going to take us up to here. Other people you meet on the way that could support you and support the character in his or her journey, or their journey. So that will be the next challenge. Think of some obstacles that fit with the character that you made, the incident that happened to them, the obstacles that they now encounter and now that they're going on that journey. So that's the next thing to think about. So if you've got your obstacles and you've kicked your character up that hill and they're going up here, meeting these challenges on the way, let's have a look at this point in the story now, the third act kicker. There may be other things that gets called, as I mentioned, but that's how I think of it. At this point, there could be some revelation. This is, if you were to try and write the story in a sentence, this is where you would say, however, but something is not what you thought it was. So, this character, so something happens to this character. As they try to meet that challenge, they seem to be doing okay. But, what? What might be that thing that jolts the narrative and gives you that extra kick of drama to get you up to the climax here? It's not necessarily a twist. It might be just a sudden increase in the seriousness of the situations. Things get a lot more intense very quickly because something major happens here. And it makes it more difficult to reach the resolution. The stakes suddenly get higher. Because in this period here, the story can start to feel a little repetitive. If you're not careful, it can start to feel a little bit like the audience can feel this problem-solution dynamic. You don't want them to feel that, but that's what's going on. And when you reach here, it's important to jolt them out of the thing that they're used to. Because otherwise, I think in some literary theories it gets called second act fatigue, where it gets quite boring. So you want to just quickly give the audience a shot of adrenaline, something new happens here to get us up to the climax. So think about your but. What is your however, your sudden change? Have a little think about that for a while, maybe make a few notes on what might change at this point. Got some ideas around that? Okay, we're going to move on now to the climax. This is the big, highest point of the story. Super high drama. All this stuff that's been building up comes together in the pinnacle of the story. So, it should, if you've done all this development work, it should be clear what this is going to be. But how you deliver it is up to your creative imagination. So, if you know your character well enough, you've done all the backstory, you've built up a good picture of who they are, by the time they get to, and they've been on this journey, and the audience now knows them as well, because you've spent time exploring that character and showing them to the audience. By the time you get to here, your story should know where it's going, if you like. And it shouldn't be hard to know what this is, but how it's done is where you can have a lot of fun with the climax. So take a few moments to brainstorm what the climactic element of your story could be. And then finally, if you've done that, let's think about this resolution. We're bringing down, everything has calmed down now, the drama's subsided somewhat, but how does it wrap up neatly? What's your resolution going to be? And that doesn't have to be a pleasant resolution, and if you are leaving it on a cliffhanger, there still has to be some feeling that we have been on a journey, and the journey is now at some sort of end. Even if there is suggestions that more may happen after this, and particularly in episodic pieces, you might not want to, particularly if you're writing episodes of a series for television or in a series of stories in comics or books, you might want to leave some things open-ended with question marks, but all in all, this part of the narrative is wrapped up now. So let's think about how that resolution might happen. And then going back to the main driving force behind your story being your character and the journey that they're on, let's think about how they've changed. I mentioned earlier that the character will have changed. Try and write one sentence about how, or one or two sentences about how the character's changed from the character we met at the beginning to the character that they are now, in light of all that's happened to them on this journey. I hope this has been useful for you today and you've learned something about creating characters and writing stories. Please share your characters with the Creative Learning Guild. You can go on their website, creativelearningguild.co.uk/summer school. Share your stories and characters there, and yeah, keep creating and keep enjoying your creativity, because I believe creativity is like a muscle. The more you do it, the stronger it gets, and the better your stories will be. Things take practice, but they can also be a lot of fun. So have a go.